Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cafecito. I'm your host, Christiana. So excited to bring yet another incredible person doing extraordinary things in our community to you all today. You all know those incredible people are people like you and others in your community doing dynamic work to help make this place a better world for those of us that are operating in it. Again, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, We the Plug. We the Plug is an organization that works with early stage founders from ideation all the way to first seed round funding. If that's something you're interested in learning more about, definitely reach out to us at We the Plug. That's THA, not THE.com. Okay, so you all, I'm so excited to bring you this amazing human being. We met in such a serendipitous way, and you all know how excited I get when I connect with people and recognize their greatness and just think to myself, wow, why aren't we having conversations? We need to have conversations that allow us to really connect with one another and not just see the greatness and leave it at that, but also like spread that so that we can experience this higher level of, I don't know, like engagement that allows us to kind of open up and do greater work in our own personal lives, as well as the work that we're doing in the community. And so when I met our guest today, that's what I experienced with him. And I thought, yeah, no, we got to have him on the Cafecito today. So without further ado, Alex, hello.
Hello, Christiana. Thanks for having me on.
I'm so excited to have you here, Alex. Thank you. Alex, what are you drinking today? I got my big, huge mug of water.
I got you. So I've drank a lot of water today so far. But I got my my Packers mug for Thursday night.
Oh, yeah. Packers. Okay. Anybody out there who aren't Packer fans and, don't come fighting me. Okay. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so excited to have you here on the Cafecito. And like I was sharing before we brought you in, I think it's so important that we highlight the light within each other, the greatness within each other, because too often we focus on so much negative. And so I'm excited because when we connected, you and I was able to have this dialogue that I don't think would have happened if it wasn't for, I think, both of us kind of being on that level of, hey, I'm here to do this work, but I want to kind of allow the organic connectedness to unfold in this conversation. And I think that speaks a lot to, who you are and how you live your life. But before we get into all that, tell the people who you are and what you do.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Alex. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been in Nashville for a little over 4 years now. I am a job recruiter, so I work with companies and people. I work with people, but candidates and companies. Companies who are looking to bring good people on, and then candidates who are looking for a change in employment, or maybe if someone was recently laid off, and connecting them with opportunities. So I'm kind of a professional matchmaker, but
I love that. That is such a great way to put it. You're a professional matchmaker, exactly, in so many different ways. But how did you get into this? Like, is this something like growing up, little Alex was like, when I grow up, I want to do this? Like, was this always something that you were interested in doing?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working with people, pretty much since my first job. I was a commissioned shoe salesman at JC, and I worked men's retail clothing at Macy's, and I interned at Northwestern Mutual, and prior to GPAC, I worked at Penske truck leasing as a management trainee, and then as a branch rental manager. So I mean, I've been working with people my entire life, and the reason why I started recruiting is so I would actually have a little bit more flexibility within my own day to day and have a little bit more of an impact in terms of what I was doing, kind of from a compensation standpoint. That's kind of where, kind of where I took it. But to answer your question, I've always loved working with people, and I know it's cliche, but it's true, and that's not shocking at all. Why I do what I do.
Wow, when you kind of share all the different ways that you have kind of expanded in your career, one could say, oh, well, wait a minute, you've transitioned from this job to this job to this job. Like, why didn't you stay here? Why did you leave? Why did you, that's one thought that popped into my head when you were talking. And then the other one was, I always have liked helping people. And when you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, were you raised that way to help people? Was that just something that you just innately just always have been like, where did that come from?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to kind of address what you first said, some of those were college jobs. So my first position out of college after I graduated with my degree in business was with Penske, and I was with them for 3.5 years. And
Wow.
now I've been with GPAC, the recruiting agency I work with, for almost 2.5 years. So those have been my only two positions since graduating college. But I did get a lot of experience while I was in school, which was obviously extremely valuable. My parents said, "You're working at 16 if you want to stay in this
Wow.
house."
16.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of just, wanting to help people out, I think I was blessed with a soft soul, a gentle soul, if you will. Both of my parents, kind of as we talked about on our phone call, they're social workers. So it was one of those things where I was raised in an environment, I think in a very healthy environment. I mean, they obviously wanted me to be in a good space mentally and feel good about myself, but they weren't like pressuring or drilling me with questions because of the line of work that they do. They were very supporting and nurturing and loving. And, I've always just kind of had a gentle, peaceful soul. People have said that I have old soul, if you will. So I think my perspective and my kindness and my wisdom, if you will, are some of my greatest assets that I've been blessed with.
Wow. One of the things that kind of stuck out to me is when you were talking about how your parents guided you. They allowed you to kind of present who you were as you were coming of age. Yes, they had re- requirements of you as a part of the family, right? To help instill in you a certain type of value system so that you would understand how to operate in the world. But something that really kind of bounced back to me is I work with youth, or I have in my past and still today. And one of the things that we often focus on is, who are you? Who do you want to show? How do you want to show up in the world? And oftentimes youth aren't asked those questions and oftentimes aren't given opportunity to kind of figure that out. They're often told, this is who you're going to be, this is what you're going to be. And then they go down that pathway and inadvertently end up doing work that they're not interested in or getting frustrated, what have you, right? But I really appreciate how you were sharing that your parents kind of allowed you to develop your narrative, guided you through the process, but still was supportive in how you chose to express that to the world and continue to express that to the world. And as you're sharing that, I'm thinking about the work you're doing as a recruiter. How does that kind of fold into, as right now we're dealing with this kind of uncertainty in the job space, in the workforce, how do you bring that kind of thought process of, I have this ability to support someone in being who they are and matching them to the right position that would best suit them, but how do you do that in a way where it's not kind of like overreaching and yeah.
Well, I think at the end of the day, you got to keep your core purpose in mind when your job. And
Wow.
I would say specifically with me, what I mean by that when it comes to recruiting is, recruiting is somewhat of a sales position, if you will. So if you are selfish first in the standpoint of, hey, it's going to come through with the candidates that you're working with. At the end of the day, you need to realize that the candidate's best interest is what comes first. And as long as you're doing a good job of being a servant to people by providing them a good service and not being a salesman or pressuring people, that's when the results are going to come to you. When you start looking out for yourself first and you lose what the reason is, what you're doing, I think that's when people feel pressured and feel that sense of maybe not a genuine desire to, for someone helping them out, if you will. Does that make sense? Did I kind of explain
it? It does, because when you talk about purpose, I can relate to that. I've pivoted 4 times in my career from when I first started out in college. But at the core of who I am, I tell people I'm an advocate and I'm a servant leader. So it doesn't matter what position you put me in or I gravitate to, I'm always going to operate out of that mode. And with me identifying through self-awareness, through emotional intelligence practices and activities of understanding how I present to the world, what are my greatest assets, skill sets, soft and hard, as well as understanding my assignment, my purpose, it has helped me be more articulate when I am in search of the next kind of house, if you will, that I will be operating in my career. Mm-hmm. I've worked with recruiters before in my career, and I found that when I was uncertain, it was just kind of like I was floundering around, and they were like, well, what about this? And I was like, well, what about this? And I experienced what you had shared about, the ones where it was really salesy and it was about the commission for the recruiter. I've also experienced the opposite, where it was more geared towards, let me help draw out who you are and what you do best, how you best show up in the world. And then from there, we'll see what matches best. And obviously that was more sustainable. It was a better experience for not just myself and the recruiter, but for the company that I was matched with as well.
Yes, no, exactly. And, I think it all stems from obviously being a good person, like you said, making money and making commissions, that obviously that's something, that's yes. important. People do want to yes. make money, but you need to understand where your motivations are coming from and kind of where your thought process is coming from, because I am still obviously in the process of this, but developing a mindset of abundance. If you believe that all there is out there is scarcity, and you're really after that commission, well, that's not the right way to look at it. If you trust that things are going to work out, if you will, trust in the universe, trust in that abundance, usually it happens. And I'm realizing that more and more every day.
Man, you hit on something so key right there, is like kind of trusting. Yeah, trusting in the process and trusting in yourself and kind of growing with it as opposed to fighting against it. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of get into is more about the work that you're doing in Nashville. It's not just based in Nashville. Talk about the company that you're with.
I work for a company called GPAC. GPAC stands for Growing People and Companies. It's a family-owned and oriented company that I've been with for over 2 years now. I mean, I've met the founders and worked with the founders, several times. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that company I work with has been around for 31 years. We have about 450 people, and we're headquartered in South Dakota. I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee. But one of my favorite things about GPAC is there's no other opportunity that I've ever come across with it. When it comes to your purpose of work, obviously you're helping companies grow and you're helping candidates find good positions, which is important, but a lot of recruiting companies do that, you know. The thing that I love so much about GPAC is the culture. I feel like it's a culture of trust. We have good people. It's a family oriented and a family type of feel. Like I said, we are a family owned, family founded firm. And I believe the values still hold true today when the company was first founded. I just work with really good people that you would trust to, watch your kids or, hold on to your wallet. I work with good people, and I work with a company that has an excellent culture. And that's extremely important to me. And I'm very thankful for that. So that's a little bit about us.
Yeah, I think that that's something that's really important to highlight, because one of the things that we do here is highlight not just founders, but also people that work in the business sector. And what I really appreciated most about your company when I was doing research on it was that it was founded several years ago, like you said, 30 some years ago, but it's still ran by that family. And one thing that's so important is that when a company is founded, the values that it's built on and the structure that is created in order to ensure that employees feel like they're a part of the process as opposed to just being a number, just driving data and that's it. And I think it's really valuable for us to highlight that other side, because as we're working in this space of entrepreneurship and startup companies, we see happening all over where these companies are popping up. And one of the things that we see is a driving force for sustainability is when the employees are put in a space of value, whether it's them feeling like they have a decision in how the company is ran through co-op ways, or maybe it's just the culture in how everyone feels like they're safe to be themselves without judgment and persecution. But there's just so many different opportunities where I think we can really pull from what you're sharing right now as to why you are with this company, because there's so many different recruiting companies that you could be with, but you chose this one particularly.
Absolutely. And what you were saying about valuing employees, I would say that's more important than it ever has been, because right now in 2021, where we're at, people do have options at the moment. And the companies that, I guess what I'm trying to say is that people value flexibility. Ever since COVID-19 happened, people have working from home a lot more. They have a flexible work schedule. So you need to trust your people, that they will get the job done, even if you can't physically have eyes on them at all times. And I just believe that that's the way the world is moving, in that direction of more flexibility, more trust within its employees, more freedom, more individualism when it comes to that. So that's my 2 cents and kind of what's going on now. If you were an entrepreneur or you were a business owner, thinking about your culture and thinking about how do I retain good people, I would say be flexible, because that's where we're headed.
You bring up some valuable points, and I wanted to get your take on that part. And so to go back a little bit to what you had shared, and kind of like fast forward into the next 10 to 15 years as we're moving forward, it sounds like you're foreseeing the workforce changing a lot. How how do you see it changing outside of just the flexibility? Are there other ways that you see it changing, and for not just the company in hiring, but also in how employees are job seeking as well?
Yeah, I think about employees job seeking quite a bit. I do
Mhm.
think that there are some changes coming. Like, for example, like on LinkedIn, you have the whole LinkedIn recruiter option where if someone is looking
Oh,
to make a change, you can change your
mhm,
profile saying open to opportunities. And
mhm.
people who are on the other side of that, like a job recruiter, for example, can see those candidates who are open to opportunities, or maybe some internal HR or internal recruiters at some of these companies. They have access to that.
Mhm.
So yes, I do think there are significant, more significant changes coming ahead in the future when it comes to how candidates are finding out about jobs and how they are applying to jobs. I don't know what that looks like specifically, but it is something that I think about on a pretty regular basis. And then in terms of how companies are looking to hire people, I mean, obviously you see there's already things like personality tests and
Mhm.
several rounds of interviews. I think the best thing that a company can find in a person, obviously the skill set needs to be there, but they're looking for hopefully some good tenure. They're not going to be there just for
Mhm.
4 months and out the door. And then
Mhm.
a good person, just a good cultural fit. Obviously, the work needs to get done, but um, being a good person and working well with others, a lot of the times is just so important. They do a pretty good job of vetting candidates out right now, but
Yeah,
obviously, we're always trying to, you know, um, sharpen up, if you will,
yeah,
progress. So I don't
yeah.
know what that specifically looks like, Christiana, but I do think we're going to continue to see changes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was reading some stuff recently about how even companies are going to be looking more in working with contractors as opposed to like a traditional employee model as well. And I was like, oh my God, how fascinating is that? Like, there's just so many different ways that I was reading about that is going to kind of manifest as it relates to the employee to job type of match or situation is not just going to be the traditional way that we've seen it before. I mean, I graduated college in 2001. And so for me, like I've been in my career space for quite a while now. And it's always kind of been this place of one where you graduate from college, you get this job, you stay there. And
Right.
then, after a few years, then you may look at, you know, moving up in the company and whatever. But um, I could see how things would kind of progress in a different way just to accommodate how fast our economy is changing, but also with this new COVID world that we live in, and a lot of remote work is made available to us now. I can see how, we're kind of up in the air with change, and maybe it'll be that way for a while.
100%. I work with some firms who have already, gotten kind of on that train of we're going to be a lot more flexible. And then I work with other firms who are still working on it, still
Yeah.
kind of working on what that policy looks like.
Okay.
And then I work with other firms who, say I'm a little more old school and I want
Yeah.
people in the office every day.
Yeah.
My firm, the company I work with, was in the office every single day. If you wanted to be a recruiter at GPAC, you had to be close to one of the physical offices.
Mhm.
COVID hit, we had to work from home.
Mhm.
Now, over a year later, 95% of the company works remotely.
Wow.
Um, and
Wow.
our numbers have gone up over the last 2 years. So
Wow.
if it tells you anything, leadership within my company trusted its employees, and it's worked out. We're doing all right.
Yeah, that's a huge telltale. I think those of you all who are listening, I think it's really good to kind of take away what Alex is sharing right now with, I think the key thing that he's kind of driving home is you got to do what's best for you and your company, or as an employee, what's best for you and your personal brand, but also recognize change is inevitable. And the best one that kind of lasts the longest or sustains themselves is the one that's flexible, without compromising. It sounds like I hear, my takeaway from you, be flexible without compromising your greater goal or purpose, as the term you've used multiple times. That there's a way to do it, and you got to find kind of your sweet spot for that. Am I tracking right with that?
Yeah, you are. And I would just want to add that right now is not the time to feel like you are trapped in a job or trapped in a position. The options are available. The options are abundant. I'm telling you, if you like what you do, but you're unhappy with maybe the company that you're at, or the way that you're treated, or how the work culture is, start looking elsewhere. Just because there are so many other options, and there are lots of companies out there that are adapting and are putting the employee first, because they do recognize how difficult it is to have really good, dependable, solid employees. So do yourself a favor and start looking elsewhere if you are unhappy. I'm saying right now is not the time to feel like you should be trapped, because there are options.
Yeah, and as you're sharing that, I'm thinking about also, for those of you all that are listening, how Alex and I met was because I was used as a reference, and that person ended up getting employed through the assistance of Alex and his great recruiting skills and matching skills. And so again, when I'm bringing people to you all, it's not just, this kind of horse and pony show. It's people who are high value that can help resolve whatever you may be challenged with. So if those of you are listening, you're like, man, to Alex's point, I'm frustrated with the position I'm in right now for whatever reason. It's not a good fit. Know that there is options out there. Recruiters like Alex, you can reach out to Alex directly, and kind of learn more about what your options are through a guided process, because it can be overwhelming and a little frustrating, because there are a lot of kind of, I think, distractions that are meant to help us place in good jobs, but oftentimes it's just a portal to grab your information, and now you're inundated, your email is inundated with junk emails, and just it can be frustrating. You may not think that you have great options, but you do. So it's just a test to what Alex is saying. Alex, I want to kind of pivot a little bit to what are your takeaways, excuse me, not your takeaways. What is your advice to someone that comes to you that says, hey, I'm looking for a position. I want to get out of where I am now. How do you kind of vet them to see, one, are they in the right field that your company is recruiting for? And then two, how to go about kind of walking them through the process to see if there's any matches for them?
Yeah, I mean, if there's somebody who works in the industries that we do a lot of work in, we want to have an idea of what their skills have been up to this point in time, and then moving forward, are they looking to continue that similar type of work, or maybe kind of diversify a little bit.
Okay.
So that's definitely an important piece of it. Additionally, you want to know why are they looking to make a change. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's location driven. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I want to relocate back to Milwaukee to be closer to family, or maybe it's not relocation. Maybe they're happy where they live, but they're looking for a more flexible work schedule, or they're looking for different types of projects. So they're looking to work for a larger or a smaller firm. They want more opportunities to be mentored or mentor others. You want to get into the specifics of why someone is looking to make a change. Because obviously that's it's a key factor. If money is the sole reason why someone is looking to make a change, it's usually not someone that you want to work with, simply because the person who's after the most money at all times will either end up getting a counteroffer from their current employer and sticking with their current employer, or they'll accept a position for more money and leave that job within 6 to 12 months. Not always, but a lot of the time. Because if you're solely motivated by money and just chasing the dollar amount, it's usually not the best recipe for someone staying at a company a long time. And so yeah, we look for the other reasons, whether it's flexibility or culture or location or challenge. Those are the answers we like to hear when it comes to someone looking to make a change. From there, yeah, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I was just going to say that makes a lot of sense. Can you share a little bit of the genres that you all recruit for?
Definitely. So specifically myself, I work with within the architecture industry, the landscape architecture industry, civil engineering, structural engineering, land surveying. However, we have teams that work in lots of different industries, which includes transportation, construction, banking, manufacturing, food production, veterinarian. You can check out all the industries that we work in on GPAC's webpage. That's gogpac.com, gogpac.com. But we work in 15 to 20 different industries. So if you're a professional,
wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm glad I don't have to work in all 20 industries. I just kind of focus in on a few.
Man, exactly. So as we're kind of wrapping up here, and keeping in mind, those that are listening today may be on both sides, of the spectrum, the employee and the employer. The other part of the caveat is we have individuals that are building their own company, that are looking to have part-time work while they're building their own company. And so what would you say is a call to action for those folks that are listening today that may be thinking about, I need to hire on some more people. How do I go about positioning myself? Or I'm an employee and I need a job, or I'm a founder of a business and I want to get my business up off the ground, but I need capital to do that. So I need to work for a company that can help, me cover those expenses. But with all of that in mind, and, like you were speaking earlier to the work that you do and the why you do it, what would be your call to action for those that are listening right now?
Yeah, I mean, for those that are listening, I think you have probably heard this before several times in the past, but, Robert Kiyosaki says it in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, yes.
Tony Robbins, motivational speaker, says it. If you feel stuck, if you're not quite sure what to do, like I said, you've probably heard it, but do something. Start with that first step and let the momentum carry you from there. But do something. It's a very general message, but I think it's some of those some of the most general messages are honestly the most effective.
Yep.
Start moving. Take some.
Moving.
It doesn't have to be.
Tell the people how they can find you particularly and your company.
Absolutely. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Alex.Mayer. Just type my company, GPAC. That's GPAC next to my name in the LinkedIn search. You can find me on Twitter, Alex_Mayer, MAYER 93. Yeah, if you reach out, I will reach back, and I'm always looking to make connections. And if there's any way that I can help you at all, or vice versa, let's talk.
I love it. I love it. Again, I want to thank Alex for coming in and sharing time with us, his vision, his why, the future that he sees upon us as it relates to our careers. And again, those of you all that have been joining us today, just keep in mind that you can make the change that you want to see in your life. You just have to make the decision to start somewhere, whether that is, like Alex said, through LinkedIn, or you just start with Alex. I mean, that's a great place to start, and he can connect you. If he's not the right person fit for you, he'll connect you. The other option is always connecting with us here at the Cafecito and We The Plug. Again, Alex, thank you so much for your time. We know you're a busy man, making those connections out there, finding those great matches. So we really appreciate you stopping by and speaking with us here at the Cafecito. For those of you all who want to stay connected to the Cafecito, we are on YouTube under We The Plug. So definitely go to our YouTube channel and click subscribe, and you can stay tapped into all our Cafecitos and the amazing people we're talking to. Thank you all so much for spending time with us today. Have a great rest of your day.